It's the ghost. So with it being 5 o'clock, we'll call the meeting to order. And the first thing that we'll do, the first item on the agenda is the election of chair. So I'll open the floor for nominations for chair. Is there anyone who wishes to nominate a member as chair? Councillor McCray?
Yes, I'd like to nominate Councillor Waterfield.
And Councillor Waterfield, do you wish your nomination? Do you consent to the nomination?
I do accept the nomination.
Okay. Are there any, so Councillor Waterfield has been nominated as chair. Are there any further nominations for chair? There being none, can I have a mover and a seconder to appoint Councillor Waterfield as chair for the year 2026? Any discussion? All those in favor? That's carried unanimous. And I'll invite Councillor Waterfield up to assume the position of chair, and then we'll do the elect of vice chair.
I would like to thank the committee for the confidence that you've placed me in electing me to this position for another term. And with this, we are now at the point in the agenda in which we will be seeking a nomination for the vice chair. I will now open the floor for nominations for vice chair. Does someone wish to nominate a member as vice chair? Councillor McCray.
I'd like to nominate Deputy Mayor Ed McPherson.
Deputy Mayor, do you consent to this nomination?
I respectfully decline. Thank you.
Do I have any other nominations for vice chair? Deputy Mayor.
Dave Bird.
Councillor Bird, do you consent to this nomination?
I do. Thank you.
Councillor Dave Bird has been nominated for chair. Are there any further nominations? Nominations are closed. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Bolt moves. Mayor Brown seconds. All those in favor? Therefore, be it resolved that the Committee of the Adjustment appoint Councillor David Bird as vice chair for the year 2026. That motion is carried. Thank you very much. We'll now move to the item number 2.1, the adoption of the agenda. And that's to be moved by Deputy Mayor McPherson.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor McCray. Be it resolved, the agenda for the Committee of the Adjustment meeting of June 9th, 2026 be adopted as presented.
All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Does anybody have a declaration of interest or general nature thereof today? Hearing none, we will proceed. Approval of the minutes from December the 2nd, 2025. Councillor Smith is not here. Therefore, I will ask Councillor Bolt to please move that.
Okay, that was the agenda or the previous minutes,
That would be the previous minutes.
which is number 4, correct?
Correct.
Moved by myself, be it resolved the minutes of the December 2nd, 2025 Committee of Adjustment meeting be adopted as presented.
All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Item number 5. Joanna, have there been any requests for deferral or withdrawal of applications for this particular item?
There have not been.
Can you confirm that confirmation of notice provisions have been met?
They have been, yes.
Thank you very much. The purpose of this public meeting is to hear the following applications for minor variance. MV01 2026, municipally known as 41 Foster Street, 50 North Street, John Hinton, Rod Raminish. MV02 2026, municipally known as 19 Warren Crescent, Wendy Dupree, Big A's Automotive, Rob Raminish. The committee is charged with making a decision on the applications noted on this agenda. The decisions will be based on both oral and written input received and understandings gained. The planner will provide a brief overview of the details of the file. The applicant will then be given an opportunity to explain the need for the variance. Then any person or public body in opposition and then in favor of the application will be heard. If you wish to be notified of the decision of the Committee of Adjustment with respect to below listed application, you must submit a written request to the Secretary Treasurer of the Committee of Adjustment, or you must sign the attendance list provided at this evening's meeting. At this time, I will call upon our planner, Joanna, to please give a review of the report and file.
Okay, thank you. The first report is application minor variance 01-2026. It's known as 41 Foster Street, also 50 North Street. And if you look at the address on the building, it is 40. So we are working through those addressing intricacies. But I think we know what we're talking about, and the map was posted on the notice. So this, I think, is a pretty a simple variance. Essentially, there is a building that exists, 41 Foster Street, 50 North. And so it's existing on the lot. It's been there for a very long time. And the applicant is wishing to change, remove offices from the upper stories and put in a residential unit. And so that's, in essence, in a nutshell, what they're doing. For every minor variance, it's required to meet 4 tests, and I'll just go through those now. One is, does the proposal maintain the intent of the official plan? The official plan designation for these lands is Central Area District, and this district allows commercial, institutional, and residential uses. The building is existing and the use is permitted, so it does maintain the intent of the official plan. The next question we have to review is, does the proposal maintain the intent of the zoning bylaw? Again, residential uses are permitted on the upper floors as is proposed here. And the variance requested is to recognize the existing setbacks and lot coverage of the building. Normally, the rear yard setback of the property in our zoning bylaw, it requires 6 meters, but because the building is existing, the location is already set at 1.5 meters. And so that's the request for minor variance. The third thing to be explored is the proposal desirable in terms of being appropriate or necessary for development of the land? I think overall, the addition of a residential unit supports the downtown core, and parking is available immediately in the parking lot next door. At the time of the drafting of the report, we had no concerns related to this request. And the last point to make it a minor variance is the proposal minor in terms of use of land and impact on adjacent holdings. And as per what I had spoken about above, we have deemed this application appropriate and minor.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions by any member of council to our planner, Councillor McCray?
Through you, Chair, to Joanna. So it sounds to me like this application checks all the boxes. Do you have any concerns as a planner in regards to this application?
None at all. I actually feel like it's a little unfortunate that we had to go through it,
Okay.
but it's just something that we have to do. If you're changing your use or changing a development, then we have to recognize the situation before us.
Okay.
And so that's what this is really just recognizing what as it sits. the
Thank
building
you,
as it
Chair.
sits.
Are there any questions of our planner by any member of council? Councillor Bolt?
I just want clarification on the parking. Again, could you restate the parking requirement and where we're at on that?
The parking would be 1.5 spaces, and there is a parking lot immediately adjacent to that building that has sufficient parking spaces to house the required parking.
So that's where I need the clarification. So if it's next door, is it offered through the owner of the building or?
It's owned, the owner owns both.
Oh, okay, that clarifies it.
Are there any questions of our planner at this time? Hearing none, I would ask, are there any comments from the applicant? Are there any questions of the applicant at this time? If so, I will ask him to please come to the mic. Hearing none, that's not necessary. Joanna, could you share with us any written comments that we received from the public?
We did not receive any from the public. We received one comment from the Algonquins of Ontario that indicated that they had no comments. And I think that was it for this one.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any oral comments from the public at this time, either by people in chambers or online? I see nobody online. I'm not hearing anyone from chambers. Therefore, I will now call upon Councillor McCray for a motion that you have before you.
Thank you, Chair. Moved by myself and seconded by Mayor Judy Brown that the Town of Perth Committee of Adjustment approve minor variance application number MV-01-2026 to recognize existing rear yard setback of 1.5 meters and the existing location of the current building on the subject property.
All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much. On to 5.2, which is the application for minor variance MV-02-2026, 19 Warren Crescent, Big A's Automotive. I would now call upon our planner to give her report.
Okay, thank you very much. This is a new development within our industrial park, not a new development. The building exists and Big A's Automotive has moved in and has begun operating their business. They are looking to have a 35.5 square meter addition to the front of the existing building in order to keep the staff and the offices separate from where work actually goes on with the vehicles. It is proposed out front, just mainly functionality. It's closer to the washroom and the cost is far less expensive than putting it on either side of the building. Originally, when the proposal came to me, we sort of reviewed those options. And just by way of cost effectiveness and functionality, having the office being built in front makes the most sense. However, it does require a variance from the existing front yard setback from 7.5 meters to 3.5 meters. So like we just went through, we go through the evaluation of the application with those 4 questions. Does the proposal maintain the intent of the official plan? These lands are designated as industrial, and as such, this automotive shop is a permitted use. Does the proposal maintain the intent of the zoning bylaw? Again, the use is met. The request is significant for the front yard setback, but as I mentioned before, the reasons were functionality and price tag for putting it other places. The main concern we had as a development services team group was essentially when the snow gets pushed, you know, where is that going to go? Is there sufficient space? Are there going to be any damages to the buildings? And environmental services weighed in on that, and they felt that provided services can be located appropriately, there are no specific functional concerns in relation to removal of snow. Is the proposal desirable, or is it appropriate or necessary? I would say it's desirable as it helps grow a business in town and provide a safer workplace for their staff. And it's also placed in an appropriate area with respect to use. And lastly, is the proposal minor in terms of the use of the land and impact on adjacent holdings? I feel that it is appropriate and minor, and we have not heard from anybody at present as to concerns with relation to impact on adjacent properties.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions by any member of council to our planner? Hearing none, do we have any comments from our applicant? Are there any questions by council of our applicant? Do we have any written comments from the public?
None from the public. We have some from agencies. One is from Hydro One, and it just notes that they don't have any concerns with the request. And the other is from the Rideau Valley Conservation Authority, who also note no concerns.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I welcome oral comments from the public either online or in chambers. Seeing none, I will call upon Councillor Bolt for your motion.
Moved by myself that the Town of Perth Committee of Adjustment approve minor variance application number MV-02-2026. Reduce the front yard setback from 7.5 meters to 3.5 meters to permit the construction of a 35.5 square meter addition to the front of the existing building.
One more line there, Councillor.
Number MV-02-2026, the approved conditional LT site plan control approved.
Thank you. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Our next meeting will be at the call of the Secretary Treasurer. I call upon Councillor Byrd for adjournment.
Thank you, Chair. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Bolt, that the Committee of Adjustment meeting held on the 29th of June 2026 adjourn at 5:17 p.m.
All those in favor? This meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much. Our special committee of the whole will begin in 1 minute's time. Good afternoon. This special committee of the whole for the town of Perth will now come to order. I'm Councillor Gary Waterfield, and at this time, I would ask Deputy Mayor to please move for the adoption of the agenda.
Moved by myself that the agenda for the special committee of the whole meeting on June 9th, 2026 be adopted as presented.
All those in favor? That's unanimous, carried. Thank you very much. Does anybody have any disclosure of pecuniary interest and or conflict of interest and general nature thereof with regards to this agenda? Hearing none, we will continue. The purpose of this public meeting is to hear an application for a zoning bylaw amendment, number ZBL-04-2025, 161-32715 Canada Inc., 2B Developments, 5355 Craig Street, Perth. The planner will provide a brief overview of the file and details of the amendment. The applicant will be given an opportunity to speak to the application. The public will then be given an opportunity to make comments and ask questions. A person or public body who has the ability to appeal the decision of council for the zoning bylaw amendment to the Ontario Land Tribunal must make oral submissions at the public meeting or make written submission to the town of Perth before the bylaw is passed in order to be entitled to appeal the decision. If a person or public body does not make oral submission at a public meeting or make written submissions to the town of Perth on the zoning bylaw application before the bylaw is passed, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Land Tribunal unless in the opinion of the tribunal there are reasonable grounds to do so. If you wish to be notified of the decision of council and any possible Ontario Land Tribunal hearing in respect to any of the listed applications, you must submit a written request to the town of Perth or you must sign the attendance list provided at tonight's meeting. I will now call upon our planner to present the report on 2026 COW 10.1 zoning bylaw amendment application number ZBL-04-2025 5355 Craig Street. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. Just to make it in plain language, I think there's a lot of you here for this application, and there are forms there, sign-in sheets for signature if you wish to be notified of a decision. So on your way out, if you do want to sign those are available. Okay, would you be able to bring up a PowerPoint presentation there? So I sort of preface everything I do with, I have written a big lengthy report with all sorts of things to consider, but I've tried to shorten it and make it a little bit easier and in a PowerPoint presentation that we can review. No, it should be at the end of the agenda. Okay. So this is a zoning application for 5355 Craig Street. That's the general location of the property. So it's a larger size lot. It is the location of where, if anyone's familiar with the history of the town, where the Red House used to be located. And it's also sort of kitty corner to McMartin House, as well as close to some schools and some other historic structures. It is not itself, though, in a heritage district. Next slide, please. So this is the site plan proposed. I now wish I had a pointer, but I don't. But the gray area, that's kind of a square to the right, is the proposed building. So it would house 30 units. And then there are proposed 30 parking spaces for this site. So there's some along the back, and then there's some along the edge of the property, and then some like at grade underneath the building. So that's where the parking is. And that's essentially the site. Next slide, please. The proposal. From the heritage impact assessment that was completed, these drawings were provided as to what the proposed building might look like. Next slide, please. So just sort of in summary of the entire report I wrote, this does conform with the provincial planning statement of 2024 and the Lanark County Sustainable Communities Official Plan, but it does not conform with the Town of Perth Official Plan or the zoning bylaw for which it is seeking variance. So I will review those next. So the applicant is seeking to change the zoning from residential third density, which does not allow apartments, to residential fourth density special exception. So residential fourth density effectively would allow an apartment use, which is suitable for this property being on collector streets and the size of the lot. And then a special exception zone is where the proposal asks for variances from the R4 zone. So in this case, the developers asked for 8 special exceptions, and they are: 1, a decrease in the minimum front yard setback from 6 meters to 2.29 meters, an increase to the maximum lot coverage from 35% to 35.6%, a decrease in the minimum landscaped open space from 35% to 23%, to reduce the minimum required parking spaces for an apartment dwelling from 1.5 spaces to 1 space. So typically 45 parking spaces would be required and 30 spaces are proposed. I'm sorry, I feel like I'm not, can everybody hear me? This is a really awkward position to be in. And then a reduction in the required barrier-free parking spaces from 3 barrier-free spaces to 2 barrier-free spaces. Next slide, please. To reduce the minimum required visitor parking spaces from 5 spaces to 0 spaces. And to decrease the driveway width from 6.1 meters to 6 meters. And to decrease the required bicycle parking spaces from 5 to 4. That are within 15 meters of the main entrance to the building. So as a planner, when I see this many variances requested, it sort of triggers in my brain, I think this property is probably overdeveloped. When you have to start, looking for that number of variances, it gets to be a little concerning. In fact, when the developer came to the development support team meeting, which is where they meet with like the development team, so planner, building official, fire chief, and civil services, civil engineering, we recommended that probably at 12 to 15 units would be a more appropriate development for a property of this size. Next slide, please. I was going to say something there. Oh, I wanted to mention, because I think some people who contacted me were confused. The applicant did submit earlier in the fall, maybe October or November, and we sent a notice out, and I drafted a report and sent it back basically to say, I have significant concerns about this proposal. And so they withdrew the application and we sent a notice saying, we're not going to have a meeting. The developer did come back with a heritage impact assessment that I requested, it being close to McMartin House and other historical neighborhoods. But it did come back and nothing else had changed. And so this is just a chart of the zoning requirements. So they've asked for those specific reliefs, and then this just shows where it complies or does not comply. Next slide, please. This was just one of the major concerns that we seem to have in this town with access and egress. And that is that it's circled there. The proponent is required to have a 6.1 meter access and egress to the site for safety reasons, fire trucks and ambulance and rest of that. They've requested a variance to 6 meters, which, 0.1, I'm not going to make a hill of beans of that. But the concern is if you can see that gray corner coming into that circle, that's the overhang for the parking garage. So when you look at that 6 meters, it's actually interrupted. And there would be a pillar there supporting that cover. So in effect, it's not actually a two-way drive aisle. It doesn't meet 6 meters. I have discussed that with the developer since, and they're going to look at sort of, relooking at that and making changes there because it doesn't provide the appropriate access. Next slide, please. So additional concerns with respect to zoning. So as I went through it in more detail, there were additional requests that could have been mentioned. One is that there should be a landscape open space strip, minimum width of 4.5 meters to be provided along the lot line, or privacy fencing with a 1.8 meter buffer strip. That hasn't been completed. That is not part of this proposal. So it also doesn't meet this section of the zoning. And 50% of the front yard should be devoted to landscaped open space. That has also not been met. And I have been unable to determine lot coverage with respect to impervious surfaces. So for the residential area, you're allowed to have 60% impervious surface. And I haven't seen a calculation for that. So these are some things that I'm missing or has not been provided. Next slide, please. So additional concerns. The density calculations far exceed the high density requirements for the town. Although, having said that, we know that the government is looking for more homes, more density. And so realistically, I think it's okay to ask for greater density, but not at the expense of functionality, which is sort of where I'm concerned with. At the time the report was written, affordable housing had not been suggested or provided. I spoke with the developer about that as well, and they are absolutely looking into making that happen. Some of the results of the heritage impact assessment noted that the exterior of the building should be modified to be reflective of the surrounding area, and we find that in the heritage sections of the official plan. And it notes that landscaping should be used to obscure parking spaces, and that has not been indicated. Lastly, we don't have specific building plans, but just as a note, high and medium density residential units must be built according to universal design principle. That's what it states in our official plan. So I'm presuming, knowing who the developer is, that is something that will absolutely be taken into consideration. But right now, we just don't have those drawings. Next slide, please. So again, at the time when I published this, Enbridge Gas indicated no concerns. The Algonquins of Ontario indicated no concerns. And we had public comments from back in the fall that just spoke about removing trees along the rear property line and to put up fencing to prevent trespassing and to reduce the lights and noise. Since the publishing of this, we've had a significant amount of comments, and I think you're all here tonight to probably speak to those. But generally, they relate to site overcrowding, inadequate on-site parking spaces, and no available street parking, access for construction vehicles, safety concerns for school buses and children walking to school, daily traffic in and out of the property, what will happen with the garbage and recycling bins, snow removal concerns, concerns related to landscaping, and fencing and light pollution were some of the main concerns I heard over and over again. There are others, and council has been provided with this package both by email, and I understand there were some concerns with the email, but we also have them in paper at your spots there.
Yep.
Next slide, please. So that's the recommendation, but I think that's on council to bring that forward.
Thank you very much, Joanna. Are there any questions by any member of council to our planner? Mayor Brown. Mayor, if you could please speak into the mic.
Usually when we get a request for a zoning amendment for something like this, it's for a change from, say, R3 to R4. But this one goes beyond that in that we're going to ask the proponent to bring her proposal more in line with what our official plan and zoning bylaw are. So is asking the person to make those additional adjustments justified by our zoning bylaw?
I think in this case, we do often have a change, say from R3 to R4 with a special exception, but it may be one or two special exceptions. In this case, there's multiple special exceptions. And so, like I said, I think it's mainly a problem with overdevelopment of the site. And I think it can be dealt with in a number of different ways. The most obvious being decreasing the unit count so that less parking is required and more landscaping can be shown. Other items to speak about, and I have spoken with the developer about it, is, if they are providing affordable housing, then we can look at the potential to waive some of those parking space requirements. But there are some sort of outstanding things that just need to be reviewed and considered, I think, at this point. So long way to say, yes, I think we'd like to see them come a little bit more in line with what the bylaw lists.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions by members of council at this time? Deputy Mayor?
Couple of questions, Joanna. So I understand that this development does not require a traffic study. Can you tell me why?
I wish I could. The zoning bylaw just says anything that's 30 units or under does not require a traffic study. So it's our zoning bylaw. That's what I have to go with. I think that, quite frankly, that judgment should be more site specific rather than an overall statement in the zoning bylaw. But it remains that I cannot ask for one.
Okay. I think as a member of council, I can ask for one via motion, or is that going to be in violation of the zoning bylaw? So I'll just finish. I'm not going to argue about housing. We all know we need more housing. The size of this building is too big for that street. I sit on county council. I don't know how many times I've been told in county council that the busiest road in Lanark County is Highway 43. So I go up and back and forth to Port Elmsley 2 or 3 times a day. I can't even turn at Tim Hortons right now safely to get up Craig Street. Dumping another 60 cars or whatever, 40 cars, 50 cars in there, whenever we get to the final number, is too many cars on that street. I think there should be a traffic study. And I realize, and my understanding of traffic studies, they really don't do much. It's just sort of in the perfect condition and a perfect road and a perfect day. It's great to have so many cars, but we're dumping 30 more cars on this street. I think you have to take into account the concerns of the residents in the neighborhood, because they all live there and they deal with the traffic that they have now, and having this much more traffic. I am concerned about where these cars are going when they have to plow snow. I live off Mather Street, and I know when they clear the apartment building just on the other side of the train tracks, all the cars move into the Salvation Army parking lot. Where are all these cars going to go? They can't park on Craig Street, so they're going to have to be parking up and down different streets where there really isn't enough parking. I'm agreeing with you. I think the building's too big. And I think that we should take into account, first off, the comments of the residents who live in the neighborhood, who are going to have to live with this one. I know the developer gets to build and move on, but these people have to live there and live with it. And I think the safety of all residents in the town of Perth who use those streets has to be taken into account.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor McCray.
Sorry, thank you,
Okay.
Chair. I don't personally feel that we need to have a traffic study. First of all, there are far too many exceptions in this proposal coming forward, as far as I'm concerned. I feel the developer needs to go back to the drawing board in terms of the number of units they're going to provide on this property. And I think that they should work with our development department with the recommendation of a lot smaller number of apartment units. I lived on Eat Rogers Road, and that particular piece of property, when I lived there, there's 24 units there. So that's 3 floors with 8 units, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, and 3 bedroom. There was always a shortage of parking for visitors parking. It was always filled. It was like a coming and going continuously. That road, I don't think, is near as busy as Highway 43. And I can just not imagine the bedlam that would create for people in the neighborhood. I think this developer needs to go back to the drawing board.
Thank you for your comments. I emphasize, are there any questions to our planner at this time? Councillor Byrd.
Thank you, through the chair. Is there a point in your experience where a council, especially with the goalposts changing continuously with the province, is there a point where a council can actually say, this does not work on this site? Can we get to that point at some point, or is it just negotiating? Because I'd be quite prepared to say to some developers, your business plan doesn't work then. And if your business plan doesn't work, I guess you can't build. But can we get to that point? Do we have that authority?
You have the authority. I've recommended deferral of the application and working with the applicant to, just sort of make this more functional and address some of or hopefully a lot of the concerns from the residents. Council always has the ability to not go with my recommendation. You could recommend denying this application. Absolutely, that is your right. The outcome is a potential for an Ontario Land Tribunal hearing. Not that I'm saying that would happen, but the potential is there. That is a risk that you take. So I think generally deferring and working with the applicant is probably preferable to putting us in a situation where we could end up at the Ontario Land Tribunal.
Yeah, I just thank you for clarifying that. I just didn't want to build false hopes in people that as a stroke of a pen, it won't happen. But...
Thank you, Councillor. Are there any further questions, Mayor Brown?
Not a question, I just want to make a statement. It's obvious that this proposal is that the building is just too big for the lot. Parking is going to be a problem, as the deputy mayor has said, coming out onto a busy street like Highway 43, Craig Street. And there's already been lots of accidents at Drummond and Craig Street, and this is just going to make it worse. But my other concern is when you jam a building onto a lot that barely meets the requirements, if they're adjusted, it's not aesthetically pleasing. It'll just jump out at you and frighten you. That's all.
Thank you, Mayor Brown. Are there any questions of our planner, Councillor Bolt?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, so Joanna, I agree with your recommendation and for everything that's already been stated. I've read every concern in here, and I'd have the same concerns if I were one of the people living near this. But even being a resident of the town and based on some of the comments by our deputy mayor, I think that working through the process, we're not going to get into that argument again and state the obvious about wanting to get new development. But if this was a development somewhere else in town that met all the right requirements, we'd embrace it. I think it's clear that the feeling in the room is that we would rather, as a council, speaking for myself on that council, work our way through it and see if we can come to an acceptable agreement in terms of number of units and addressing you know, all of these concerns. So for that reason, I would support your recommendation to go forward and try to modify this so it works for everybody.
Are there any further questions by anyone of council of our planner? Hearing none, I welcome any comments from the applicant, and I believe we have Lindsay Blair online. If you could identify yourself, and I welcome any comments that you may have.
Yes, hi everyone. Apologies for not being there in person today. I do want to just start off by saying that the comments received are being taken quite seriously. When we first did our application and in the pre-development meeting, I know Joanna, you've made your comment about density, but I don't necessarily recall any comments about density being made, but I don't dispute the concerns being expressed. I really don't. I'll kind of address some of the comments that I've read in no particular order. The first thing I'd like to just kind of express is I am involved in a number of projects in town, but my role in those projects are not always the same. So I don't have a lot of control as to what gets built sometimes. There was a reference to 55 Drummond Street. My team has built that project, but I didn't have any say in how that project was put together from a design perspective. I'm involved in other projects too. Over the course of the last couple of weeks, I have been communicating with Joanna that we are in the process of a Build Canada Homes portfolio submission, and that I would be leading this development as both owner and constructor. So there would be a commitment on my end to make the building aesthetically more pleasing, which would be amending the current renderings that have been submitted from the current ownership, and also placing a higher priority on affordability. I also do acknowledge that the density is pretty severe based off the comments received. We have the application before everyone today. It is what it is. And, you know, we're here today to present it, but Joanna's recommendation, I think, is made in part because I've already expressed to her that there'll be substantial changes from the density of the project, recognizing just some of the recent and new comments that I've been reading through. So I just want everyone to know in the room, I don't dispute or argue your comments. I think they're very fair. I do want to relay just last fall, we did do quite a bit of work on this project and it was paused, but we have done quite a bit of civil work already. So the reconstruction of Craig Street, the new services were brought into the property. So we won't have to cut up Craig Street or do any road cuts or sidewalk cuts. We have had the upgraded services brought into the site. We did work hand in hand with Public Works on that. So there would be no interruption to traffic beyond what the town's already had to endure during the Craig Street reconstruction. But I guess, you know, like I understand the comments that the public has, and I'm happy to really listen to them. In terms of the relief being sought, changing the zone to R4 is for sure, you know, what I'm intending to still work through with Joanna. As far as the relief, the setback from the property or from the town properties is one that I don't foresee us adjusting. Joanna and I've spoken quite a bit about this one. There is a 6-meter setback, but then there's also what the streetscape is already. And so having that relief does allow us to do a lot more with the balance of the property. I completely agree with Joanna about the 6.1. We'll work through not seeking that exception, as well as not seeking as much reduction in the softscape. As far as parking goes too, I've also, you know, concurred with her about that. And I think by, you know, reducing density, you also reduce your parking requirements and more cars can fit. You can have better functionality on the site. I am in support of Joanna's recommendation to defer and work through this together on revising the functionality of the site plan in conjunction with the final zoning bylaw. But I hear all the community concerns, and I guess that's all I'll say to that at that point.
Thank you very much, Lindsay. Are there any questions by members of council to Lindsay at this time? Hearing none, thank you very much, Lindsay. Joanna, you've already indicated an overview of the written comments that we have received on this particular application. At this time, I welcome any oral comments by members of the public that are in chambers or online. Please come forward, Rob, if you could have a seat by the mic there, and if you could state your name and address, please.
Good evening. My name is Rob Umferson. I live at 56 Drummond Street East, which is across from Lindsay's other project. I think everybody has received the letter I sent in about my concerns. I'm really glad that Lindsay is open to discussing this. This is excellent news. But my big concerns are exactly what was discussed. It's too big a project for the lot. Parking is a major problem. In fact, today I walked over to see 55 to see what was done there, and I was heartbroken. The green space that used to be there is gone, and I really don't see much more green space. I think, where will the children play? You know, it's all asphalt. And I'm glad that Lindsay said she's not involved in all aspects of that, because what I was led the 55 to look like is not what it's turned out to look like at all. I'm rather disappointed in how it looks. And if it's like that, and on Craig Street, it's the pictures are, this is what it is proposed to look like, I don't hold out much hope. Perth is a nice town, but this project is just too big for the lot. And as I said, you've got my letter of concern, and I just want it on record that I'm opposed as it stands right now. And so I hope that you can reach a mutual decision, I guess, where it will fit in with the town and be welcomed and accepted, because right now it's not. So
Thank you very much, Rob, for your input. Is there anybody else in chambers or online that would like to make any comments at this time? Sir, please come forward. Please have a seat, make yourself at home. If you could state your name and your
Councillor
address.
Waterfeld and members of council. First of all, please excuse me if I talk too loud. I'm deaf and I cannot tell the volume of my voice, okay?
We can hear you.
This location cannot have a building of that size on it.
Excuse me, sir. If you could state your name and address. If you could write that down for the.
Butch Curran.
Okay, and Butch's address?
50 Craig.
Fine, thank you. That's just for our records. Sorry.
Can I go ahead?
Yes, please go ahead, sir.
They're requesting a setback of 2.29 meters. My question, where do you put garbage bins, blue bins, yellow bins, and green bins for 30 units on 2.29 meters? You cannot allow zero visitor parking. There is already no parking allowed on Craig Street, and there is an 18-unit building 75 meters away on Drummond Street, taking all this parking up there. This lot is 30 meters away from a major intersection. Craig Street is not a residential street, it is Highway 43.
Right.
Commercial, industrial, and residential traffic, plus school buses for 3 schools. It just cannot handle all of that. And with 30 units, people being 30 meters from a major intersection would be almost impossible to get in and out of their driveway without tying up traffic. Another question, where do you put 30 vehicles when you have snow removal? You cannot put them on the street. There's no place to put them. So where does it go? We have winter here in Perth. We already have a problem with a shortage of doctors in our town. We have a problem that we read about every day with the emergency room at our hospital. So now we're asking the residents of the town of Perth to stand further back in line because somebody wants to put a building on a piece of property that physically cannot handle it. And I'm also very concerned about this building of 30 units, 1 and 2 apartments, is going to have children living in it. Are these children to be locked in their apartment all day, every day? Because there's no place for them to play. Thank you kindly for listening to my concerns.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. I welcome any further presentations at this time. Please come forward. Welcome. If you could state your name and your address, please.
Thank you. My name is Peter Bessot. My address is 1119 Prestonvale Road in Lanark. But
Oh.
I am the owner, together with my wife, Janet Smith, of 52 Craig Street, which is directly across from the proposed
Okay.
development.
Mhm.
I have made a 2-page written submission, which council may or may not yet have had time to look at. So you have then, I'm not going to go over it in detail, but I would like to raise a few points or just underline those. So I'm grateful for a lot of the comments that I've heard this afternoon, and I'm in agreement with them. I take on board particularly Joanna's observation that this tension between densification and functionality is really what we're up against. And at the end of the day, what we need to do is have a functional landscape and a healthy community that starts with the buildings that you put up on and respect the where they're coming and going within the town. And that's, as everyone said, that's a highway, it's a street, it's one of the busiest intersections in towns, and this is a serious thing. So I would underline another point, which is I know that everyone is mindful of Premier Ford's push for more housing. I don't know, I don't have the statistics for Perth, but from what I've seen on construction sites and things going up, Perth is not shirking its responsibilities to those principles. In fact, I think they're doing quite well. What's happening here is we're taking one instance of an application for development that's in excess, significantly in excess of what the town can tolerate. And in fact, in the intervention that I made in writing, I indicated that the footprint at 5355 Craig Street, as proposed in this development, would extend the footprint to several blocks beyond it. In effect, what it does, if it were to go ahead with the amendments proposed, is it extends the footprint out there. It says, we are going to build an oversized apartment. We are going to underservice it. And the town of Perth can pick up the liabilities in perpetuity. And the answer to that question is, what a silly question. Why on earth would we do that? Go back, right-size this project, and make it work for you and make it work for us. Because at the back, although I understand that the conversations and the documentation has all been professional and civil, when I read the application for amendments, I'm struck by, I find it actually annoying, that I find it disrespectful, because if you're going to deny visitor parking at an apartment, if you're going to deny adequate parking for your tenants, if you're going to extend the front of the building to where that's actually essentially on the sidewalk, it's showing a great disrespect for your future tenants, but it's saying, yes, but we can have a maximum profit from that. And I don't like the taste of that. I think it's wrong. I think it's wrong for the town, and I think it's wrong as a principle for development. whoever's doing the developing. I'm concerned about the idea that about what the property might look like. Again, going back to 55 Drummond Street, I think it is. I said in my letter, that is one of the most charmless, ugly, multi-unit buildings I've seen in this town. I've seen more charming abandoned warehouses. And I don't think that we should extend the benefit of the doubt in this. I think if you're going to go ahead with the developer, then hold their feet to the fire and say, no, what will it look like? Not what might it look like, and make it conform to the standards that you said you want to see in the town. So I'll end there, I think, except to say maybe a couple of things. When I read the application, I read, this is what my summary was. We want to build an oversized building, underservice it, and push the rest onto you. Again, why would you do it? The property on, we all know the saying, you give an inch and they take a mile. The property on 55 Drummond is the inch that you gave. The property at 5355, Craig, is the mile that they're asking for. Don't give it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Are there any?
Sorry, I just want to make one comment.
Okay, go ahead.
With respect to appearances of buildings, I think this is really important. We have a good crowd here to learn new things. Planning used to be able to have a say in the appearance of a building. We could, talk about, should it be brick or stone or like siding or a combination thereof? What color should it be? And we were able to sort of address that with the developer and approve the external appearance of the building. Under Premier Ford, the planning department is no longer able to have any say in the outward what the building looks like at all. We can only speak to lot line setbacks, lot coverage, that sort of thing. So I know our motto is heritage in heart and all these really lovely things, and it's a beautiful, beautiful town. And unfortunately, the regulations have changed in that regard. So the planning department or any other department within the municipality cannot shape what a building looks like from the exterior.
If I may too, if it's okay.
Okay, Lindsay, I'll let you make one comment to that.
Thank you. I really do hear the concerns on the exterior, and Mr. Umfertson and the others, and it's hard to probably displace me from decision making on that project because my company is building that project. But the choice of the siding on that project and its exterior colors are not mine or under my control. That will be different on this project where it is under my control. And the town's most harshest critic is my mother, who drives by that building every single day. And I really wish we were able to dictate to our clients what to put up on that building. But often project costs are what dictate that. And so, I hear those concerns. I don't dispute them either. And I feel, it's unfortunate that there's so much dissatisfaction with the outside of that building, truly. But I just want to emphasize that those choices are not mine. We're the company that built it. And we had to follow the direction of our clients.
Thank you, Lindsay. Thank you, Lindsay, for making your point. Are there any further oral comments from the public, either in chambers or online? Excuse me, ma'am. If you have a comment, I would ask you to come to the mic.
We just need it so that they can hear on Zoom.
My name is.
Please make yourself comfortable. If you would state your name and your address, please.
My name is Eleanor Carsberg, and I live on Drummond Street across from the hospital at 34.
34, thank you, and I welcome your comment to your
I
question.
just wonder if they are on a long recess now, our Ontario government, and could John Jordan not be made to come here and talk about this? We're a heritage town. And I think we should have some say in at least the color of some of the buildings that are going up that just do not suit our town at all.
So ma'am, I appreciate your question and your comment. However, this is not specific to this application before us at this time, but your comments will be recorded.
Yep.
Are there any other comments from anybody in chambers or online at this time? With that, I will call upon Deputy Mayor Ed Ferson for the motion before you.
Moved by myself as recommended by committee of the whole, be resolved that the council of the town of Perth, number one, defers zoning bylaw amendment application ZBL 04/2025 to change the zone category of lands municipally known as 5355 Craig Street from residential third density to residential fourth density special exemption zone until such time that developer brings forward an amendment to development proposal that conforms to the comments made by staff, the public council agencies, and number two, direct staff to issue public notice for subsequent public meetings once the developer amends the plans accordingly as presented in Cal Report 10.1.
All those in favor? This has been carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Our next meeting date will be today, as a matter of fact, immediately following this special committee of the whole, and it will be chaired by Councillor David Bird. Are there any questions from the media at this time? Hearing none, I will call upon Councillor Bolt for a motion for adjournment.
Moved by myself that the special committee of the whole meeting held on June the 9th, 2026 adjourn at 6:09 p.m.
All those in favor? This meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm going to call the regular COW meeting to order now at 6:16 p.m. This is the 11th meeting in 2026 and is live streamed and recorded on the Town of Perth's YouTube channel. There's going to be, just to let you know before we get into the running order, and I apologize to the people that are here as delegations. We have a matter coming up where we have someone who has another commitment he has to get away to, and we're going to move something forward. Hopefully it won't be terribly time consuming, and that would be item 8.3. So right now, if I could ask the Deputy Mayor, please, to move the adoption of the agenda.
Moved by myself that the agenda for the regular committee of the whole meeting on June 9th, 2026 be adopted as presented.
Call the question. Those in favour? Or did you have a question, Councillor Waterfield?
No, I was.
You were anticipating. Thank you.
Yes.
That's, disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof, usual warning as per earlier in this proceedings. There's no public meeting under the Planning Act scheduled. I do need the adoption of the minutes, and then we'll move to 8.3. So that would be you again, please, Deputy Mayor. Oh, I'm sorry, I crossed it out wrong.
It's okay, I got broad shoulders. It's all right. Moved by myself that the minutes of the May 12th, 2026 special committee of the whole meeting, May 12th, 2026 regular committee of the whole meeting, and May 20th, 26 special committee of the whole meeting be approved.
Call the question. Those in favour? Unanimous. We turn to 8.3. Ask Forbes Simons to, he's already here and ready to go. Thank you.
Chair, thank you very much. And to those that are behind me that I've jumped queue on, I do apologize. Sometimes it's hard to be in two places at once, and I'm not the best at that. The matter that I have before you this evening, Council, is our continuing discussion on a new zoning bylaw. We've had our public meeting. We've had our open houses. The report that you have before you summarizes the comments and appends all the comments that we've received and is a recognition of what is the public record on the file as we speak. What I have done is I've provided you and staff with a new final version of the zoning bylaw, accepting all of the red line changes that were identified in the discussion draft. And the new document, the new final document, is all in black, except for the changes that are being recommended in this report as a result of the comments that and consultation we have had. So just so that you realize, all the previous changes have been accepted, and now we're just looking at new changes to that final draft. I wish to highlight that we've had some comments from the public, none of which have been resulting in significant changes. There have been some changes, minor modifications to the additional residential unit provisions that came out of a discussion that Joanna and I have been having with Ben Clare, who represents two parties in the Perthmore development area. And so we've been working with Ben. We've been getting comments even up to today, and they have the right to provide comments until the gavel goes down on the approval of the bylaw, which makes it a little difficult. There might be some more tweaks, and we'll highlight that at a future point. But I would like to say save and accept for a few minor tweaks on the additional residential unit provisions. We have a near complete, 99% complete document before you. We have recognized on the zoning schedule that the lands, the golf course lands that are subject to the Ontario Land Tribunal hearing are highlighted as being subject to the OLT. They do not show any zoning now. And when the OLT makes their decision, that bylaw will be brought into the document through just a consolidation. There will be no additional hearings or anything. They just come into the document as approved by the OLT. And so we've highlighted that, and that was requested by their representative. There are no other real significant changes that were the results of external comments. We did have a number of internal comments that we have now brought forward for you to see, and I've summarized those in the report. Your CBO provided some excellent suggestions in terms of bringing the zoning bylaw in sync with the Ontario Building Code, particularly with respect to definitions, and we've made efforts to do that. We've also tightened up some problems that you've had with your storage container provisions. They've been challenged. And so what you'll see in the new final draft is a reworking of that provisions. I would suggest the vast majority is intact, but there are some very important clarifications to that we think will stop some of the runaround that's been happening with respect to storage containers. The other thing that we found is that we had 3 definitions of market, and we felt 2 were sufficient. So the one definition of market has been removed. There's also been a slight change in the M2 general industrial, recognizing class 3 industry. Originally, it was existing class 3 industry. There are no class 3 industry in your park, and this just clarifies that oversight. Other than that, I think that we're at a point where I'm comfortable recommending that you look upon the final draft favorably. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. There is one other caveat that I have to highlight, and that is something we briefly touched on at the last meeting, Chair, and that was Bill 98, that has been running almost concurrent with our process. And Bill 98 has introduced a prescribed minimum lot size for residential development in the province of Ontario, and it is now 1,900 square feet in size. I think that is extremely small. I've never endorsed a lot that small in an urban context, and it is now the law of the land. It overrides any zoning provision. And my suggestion, Chair, is that we accept that decision and we make this change in our residential R1 zone, and we recognize it and we move forward. We can proceed with the document as written and just deal with proposals when they come forward, realizing there's a higher law that's passed judgment on this and where our document is not in sync with that. That's certainly an acceptable approach, but realizing that someone could come in and present a proposed lot size that isn't consistent with what we have, and it would be deemed by approval authorities to be acceptable. That's my report, Chair. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Councillor McCrae, and then your worship.
Through you, Chair, to Forbes. So I was reading some information from AMO and Roma in regards to Bill 98. And what I read was that by 2028, the province is going to standardize official plans, and also that they are now reviewing the building code section by section. Moving forward with our official plan and the bylaws that we have, does this mean that we're going to have to very shortly start over again at square one? Or are there ways that we will be able to implement all of the work that you have and Joanna have done on these documents to kind of dovetail into what they're proposing?
Thank you very much, Councillor. The changing of official plan documents, the way I've read it is it's more now a standardization of the table of content and the standardization of verbiage. It's not to the point where it's prescribing content of what the policies are, just what certain land uses are called. And I think that you've got time to absorb that and deal with it. I don't think that there's going to be a need for you to take any specific action at this point, but the next time you do your official plan review and you create, I think we spoke of a new official plan at that time, it will have to follow that prescribed table of content, which I guess it's making it easier for developers to understand. I'm not sure they've necessarily spent a lot of time with the official plan, at least some of them anyway. Maybe it'll help them read the document and follow the document in the future, if I may be somewhat tongue-in-cheek.
Your worship.
A question about, you mentioned changes in our plan about storage units. So as I recall, there were two situations that we had problems with storage units. One was because they had put the units on floodplain, and the other was because they contravene a provincial regulation that whether there was an agglomeration of storage units that you had to have a bathroom. Both of those are provincial regulations. So I'm just wondering what the changes were that you made.
One of the primary changes, Mayor, was that we clarified that a tractor trailer depot, a transportation depot that has tractor trailer units is not the same as a place that stores and sells storage containers. That was clarified. I think it was an unnecessary clause that led people down a certain path, and so that's been removed.
Okay.
A transportation depot is a transportation depot for transport trucks and their trailers, and a transport truck and its trailer is not a storage unit as defined in your bylaw. So that clarification was certainly one of the main elements.
Thank you.
I have a procedural question, and I apologize specifically to Councillor Waterfield, but to Council generally. I should have put the motion on the floor first. Not to steal your thunder on some of it. I'm just asking, in the normal course of events, this would move forward in the consent agenda, but it has a bring forward the final bylaw is the second part of it. Do we do that? And then if there are any other, because you mentioned tweaking, if there's any other amendments, Joanna would notify us and someone would pull it out of the consent agenda? Or is it going to stand separately? Well, we'll see when Councillor Waterfield reads the motion, but I'm wondering, does it stand separately or does it move forward inside the consent agenda?
So through the chair, just for clarification, Forbes, the changes, are you proposing any changes to the red line that's attached to the staff report this evening?
So this is a good question and a good line of question. Traditionally, I would say no, I wouldn't make any changes, but and that we would assume all the comments have come in. But I think the ongoing conversation with representatives from Perth More are suggesting that there may be additional red line changes and that it may not be appropriate to bring it forward to council for approval at this point, that we may need one more round of review at committee. And so we could accommodate those last minute decisions or comments that are coming in, because we do want to try to accommodate. It's not to say we're going to be able to address all the comments. And so it may be appropriate that we defer this motion at this point in time to allow for any of those last minute changes and any direction on Bill 98.
Councillor McCrea and then Councillor Woodford.
Through you, Chair, to Forbes, I also think Forbes mentioned the importance of getting the final information through the Ontario Land Tribunal in regards to KVAN as well, or would that be part of that as well?
No, that would be separate, Council. That's a decision by an external approval authority. When that gets done, it simply comes into the document. No approvals, no changes. It would be just consolidated into the new document when that information comes along. And so there should be no delay based on that at all, Council.
Councillor Waterfield.
Chair, in view of the comments that have been made with regards to some tweaking with input from the Perth More Residents Association, I feel that this motion is premature at this time and that the motion should be deferred until there's final consultation and that the document is presented to us with no tweaking.
If I don't see any further questions, I'm going to have you, as I should have done in the first place, as I said, have you move the motion and make that request for council to consider.
I would move that the following motion be deferred. As recommended by the Committee of the Whole, be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Perth direct staff to make recommend changes to the red line discussion draft as presented in the final draft of the Town of Perth zoning bylaw dated June 1st, 2026, and direct staff to bring forward a bylaw to the June 23rd, 2026 regular council meeting to adopt the final draft of the Town of Perth zoning bylaw as presented in report 2026 Cal 11.3. If I may make a comment, the second part of that motion, in view of the fact that we're deferring, may not be practical in terms of a timeline. So unless I have any different input, I would simply delete that part 2 in my deferral. So the deferral that I've just read, which I don't think I should have to read again, simply is deferring the motion which only contains the first part. And at such a time, then we can have this presented to us once we have the final document done.
So the motion on the floor does not include, we're striking item 2, clause 2 in that motion.
Correct.
And it's a deferral motion. Unless there's some questions on that, I'm going to call it right now. Those in favor? Okay, passing.
Thank you so much for your consideration.
No,
I very much appreciate it and have a good evening.
Thank you. And again, with apologies, if we could move forward now to the delegations, back to 6.1, Tim Holmes, smoking in the town-owned common areas. You have to press the button there and the red light will come on and you're able to speak. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tim Holmes and I live at 57 Arthur Street, Perth. My neighborhood was originally designed by the town so that houses would share a common green space behind them. So our backyards are very small. The distance from my property line to the fence at the new 63 Halton Street apartment building site is only about 50 feet. So roughly the distance from the center line to the goal in a hockey rink. If anyone wants to come and visit to refresh their memory, I have provided my phone number and email to the deputy clerk. And the town has recently permitted a doubling of the number of households on my block. I'm requesting a change to the smoking bylaw to moderate the impact of that intensification on the remaining small shared green space. To explain, I say doubling because prior to the apartment building, there were 21 households on the block. And now after the Cockburn Street townhouse development and the apartment, there will be 22 new households for a total of 43. So I'm asking council to direct staff to study a change to the town's smoking bylaw so that smoking is not permitted on the town-owned green space behind me. It's a small area that now will be shared by a large population. Protecting it will benefit all residents, including the majority of tenants in the new apartment building. Some of those units are for handicapped residents who can be protected from the ill effects of secondhand smoke if they go out to the common green space. And I'm also concerned about fire safety. The common space is gradually being treed. The grass is inconsistently mowed, and there is a need to prevent wildfire on this town property in the center of a densely built-up block. And smoking involves ignition. So at present, Perth's smoking bylaw is more limited than those in many neighboring municipalities. In Smith Falls and Brockville, for example, smoking is not permitted in parks or on municipal property. Perth's bylaw, by contrast, only restricts smoking within 9 meters of a municipal building, which I understand to mean a building owned by the municipality. So in jurisdictions that updated their bylaws after the 2017 Smoke-Free Ontario Act revision, smoking is not allowed on any municipally owned land. Signage is not required, and the definition of smoking includes vaping and cannabis. Well, these are practical standards that Perth can adopt without significant cost. North Grenville's bylaw is said to be a good example to emulate. The Perth bylaw is dated 2011, prior to the 2017 revision of the Smoke-Free Ontario Act. So on this issue, we're behind the times, I feel. I understand that this type of bylaw change has not resulted in a significant enforcement problem elsewhere. And I'm also told that the change will make Perth more attractive to visitors and gives clarity to organizers of special events. As the town embraces policies of urban intensification, it's important to update the smoking bylaw so that behavior in small remaining public spaces is managed fairly and consistently. I've collected bylaws from other municipalities that can serve as practical templates for staff, and Smoke-Free Ontario Inspector Eady of the Southeast Health Unit is available as an expert resource. He has helped other municipalities to modernize their smoking bylaws. Neither you nor I are experts on a suitable bylaw revision for Perth. For example, one of you might ask, is it reasonable to ban smoking on town sidewalks or in vehicles on town roads? The answer is that sidewalks and roads are not municipally owned property. They're public rights of way. Town staff will review this type of angle and report to you with a draft bylaw revision with a factual foundation to inform a good decision, rather than me arguing too much about my biases or anyone. You can represent me and my neighbors effectively by directing staff to proceed. And I feel that it should not be prohibitively time-consuming for them. My goal is simply to address a foreseeable issue before conflicts arise. The director of CareBridge, the apartment owner, has suggested that a problem is unlikely because the residents may not spend much time outside. Neighbors met him and Joanna Bowes a year ago to identify rules of use for the shared area that we would like to see. And smoking was a priority issue, and it was unlike other priority issues. it was not covered by a current bylaw. The director, Robert Eves, has recently indicated that he has no issue with my request for a bylaw that prohibits smoking in the shared green space. And he and I and several others are soon meeting to further discuss thoughtful use of the common area. So the general approach is one of collaborating on these kind of issues. Finally, a clear bylaw would ensure that anyone who wishes to smoke outdoors does it on their own property, which I believe is a fair and reasonable expectation. My goal is to have the bylaw changed on my block, but a bylaw change for all town-owned property may be appropriate. And that is what has occurred in Smith Falls, Brockville, Carleton Place, Ottawa, North Grenville, many other municipalities, Kingston as well. So I'm not asking you to vote on a change now. Please just agree to have staff study it and report with a draft smoking bylaw that you can then vote on. Now is the time before new coming tenants move in. Thanks for your time, and I'm pleased to answer any questions or receive comments.
Thank you, Chair. Tim, thank you very much for your presentation. It's obvious you've put a lot of thought and preparation research into the presentation. For those that are not familiar with your property, could you share with us where your property ends and where the public space begins? Is it like right next to the end of your property line?
Well, I don't know the exact width of, I mean, it varies with different neighbors.
Right, okay.
The shape of the block.
Right.
It's pretty close. The common area is quite small compared to what we
Right.
originally pictured. The only way I can put it is I pasted out from I know where the back of my lot is, and I pasted out to the construction fence, which is probably on the common area, not
Okay.
on their property as it should be,
Right.
but it's close to the property
Sure.
boundary between 63 Halton and the common area. And it's about the distance that I described from a hockey
Right.
goal to the center line, about 50 feet.
Okay.
So it's probably 60 feet.
Okay, thank you. Chair, I do have a second question, but if you wish to have Councillor McCray ask hers, by all means, go ahead.
Thank you, Councillor McCray. I'll come back to you.
Through you, Chair. After hearing the presentation from Tim Holmes on smoking in town-owned common areas, I not only support we receive for information this presentation from Tim, but staff review our smoking policies and bring recommendations forward to council in keeping with building a healthy and safe community.
Thank you. And back to Councillor Waterfield and then the Mayor.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor McCray had almost the exact same comments I was going to make. We're both on the same wavelength there. I would like to get, if I may, some comments from our Director of Development, Joanna Bose, with regards to this potential change. Just kind of curious as to what will be involved and so forth.
Thank you. And I just want to acknowledge that Tim has been incredibly respectful and polite as he continually sends me emails asking me. No, I'm apologizing. I know this is something that's very important to both him and the residents. And I have been being the only planner currently dealing with other priority files, but I understand that this is of significance to you. So I just want to acknowledge that Tim has waited a very long time for a response, which I think is why we're here. So I think it's something that obviously staff can look into. I think this is going to include multiple department communications. So if we're going to make it town-wide, we would want to talk to the Director of Community Services, the Clerk's Department, who does a lot of the bylaw amendments, and then myself as it relates to the green space development. I did get some emails with respect to a meeting, and I don't know if that meeting about that green space is just specifically smoking or if it would be about other things that we talked about previously, landscaping and
Yeah.
And other things. So I think there's a variety of ways that we can deal with this issue, whether it's through the common area agreement or whether it's through an amendment to the smoking bylaw. But I think it's something that we have to look at maybe as a senior management team, or at least some of the directors as a group. And we want to get it right the first time. And I think right now we have some competing priorities, which on my end, hopefully will be nearing an end in the next couple of weeks. But I will say, I know when occupancy is imminent, you want to get this handled. So I think we can do a staff report, but it's going to require, you know, a group discussion between the directors and finding the time to make that happen, which thus far I have been unable to do. And I do apologize for that. And I appreciate your patience.
I appreciate that too, that you're busy and makes sense.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor, and then I'll come back to you, Councillor Waterfield, for the motion. I think you got an adjustment there.
Yes, thank you. It says in your report that anyone that wishes to, the ideal is that anyone wishes to smoke outdoors does it on their own property. I'm just wondering, in an apartment like that, once you go outside, is the whole common area considered your property?
Currently, the common area is owned by the town of Perth, but there's a shared agreement between all of the owners that they can use it, but it is not their property. So for the Carebridge Apartments, there is actually very limited space in which they could smoke. But I also understand, you know, the concerns of the residents who are already there. So I think it's just a matter of trying to figure out which approach we take and which makes the most sense. Do we want it specifically for the Perth Works area, or do we want to do it townwide in all of our parks?
So the most important thing is that they don't smoke on town property. Okay.
Thank you. Unless I see anybody else, I'm going to come back to you, Councillor Waterfield. There's a receive for information motion there, but I think you wanted to make an adjustment to
So
that.
Chair, I just wanted to make a comment. The motion on the agenda is simply receiving for information. I had planned to add a very similar phrase that Councillor McCray had just stated, which I fully support. So I'd like to, from a procedure point of view, incorporate her motion into the receiving of information.
10-4, it's 10-4.
So it would.
It's your motion, sir.
Sure. So therefore, as recommended by the committee of the whole, be it resolved that the council of the town of Perth receive for information the presentation from Tim Holmes, smoking and town-owned common areas, and that staff be instructed to present a staff report to update the 2011 smoking bylaw to not allow smoking on any municipally owned land, and the definition of smoking include vaping and cannabis. As presented at the committee of the whole meeting on June 9th, 2026. That would be my motion.
So it's that's a direct motion because there's no previous motion on the floor. So that, as you've read it, is exactly what it is. Any questions from anybody in relation to that? No, I'll call the question then. Those in favour? That passes unanimously.
There you go.
Thank you. Okay, next is 6.2. Joan Stevenson, and you'll have to forgive me, I learned this when I first came over here. I've got to ask whether it's Bowes or Bowes. Bowes, thank you. And Andrew Martin, financial impact provisions under the Fire Protection Prevention Act. Just a reminder that you press the button until the red light comes on and you have to get fairly close to it. Thank you.
So as you mentioned, my name is Joan Stevenson Bowes. I'm here with my business partner, Kevin Van Duze. We are the owners of 93 to 99 Gore Street, which is the building that houses Maximilian's Restaurant. Andrew Martin is going to present after I. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. On August the 27th, 2024, Council adopted bylaw 5175, establishing a fire prevention policy. Following this, in February of 2025, the Perth Fire Department invited licensed establishments and restaurants to schedule inspections of their premises. As responsible building owners, Kevin and I voluntarily contacted the fire department and arranged an inspection of the Maximilian building. Since purchasing the building in 2019, we have invested significant funds in upgrading our fire suppression system, fire alarm panel, and numerous other upgrades. We hoped our building would be largely compliant. While that was mostly the case, we were shocked and dismayed to receive an order under Section 21 of the Fire Protection and Prevention Act of 1997 relating to fire escape clearances and fire-rated openings. Our building, which dates back to approximately 1850, has doors and windows located within 3 meters of a fire escape. Under Section 21, this is not acceptable. To comply with the inspection order, those openings must be upgraded to provide a minimum 20-minute fire protection rating. I want to be very clear. We fully support this order and are committed to maintaining a safe building. We are not challenging the fire department's requirements. In fact, we appreciate the professionalism and cooperation shown by Fire Chief Chofie and Assistant Chief Andy Moore throughout this process. After discussions with the two of them, we were permitted to complete the required work over 2 years in 2025 and 2026. To date, we have replaced doors, enclosed windows above the new 20-minute fire-rated doors, and modified a patio window facing the fire escape at a cost of more than $15,000. In 2025, we were able to access the Community Improvement Plan grant, which covers up to 33% of eligible costs, and the Heritage Restoration Grant, which covers up to 25% of eligible costs for this first phase of the project. However, in 2026, we learned that we are no longer eligible for the Heritage Restoration Grant because the program specifications currently limits approvals to 2 grants within 5 years, and we have exceeded the limit due to a previous application. This year, we are scheduled to spend approximately $24,000 installing fire-rated shutters on the remaining windows to comply with Section 21. I am respectfully requesting that Council review the Heritage Restoration Grant criteria and consider either an exception or a policy amendment for essential building modifications required by fire department orders. These are not discretionary improvements undertaken to enhance the property. They are mandatory safety upgrades required to bring buildings into compliance. The Maximilian building is not an anomaly in facing this challenge. In correspondence dated March 26, 2026, Assistant Chief Moore noted that a number of downtown properties are affected by similar requirements. Property owners who spread the work over several years, as we have done, may also find themselves ineligible for grant support before the required work is completed. Had we been aware of this limitation earlier, we would have prioritized these fire safety upgrades rather than undertaking other restoration projects that we did in 2023 and 2024. Like many property owners, we made decisions based on the information available to us at the time. We will comply with all fire department orders. However, these projects represent substantial capital expenses that can place a significant burden on small businesses and heritage property owners particularly when the work is mandated by the fire code. I believe council shares the goal of ensuring that Perth's buildings are both safe and well maintained. Allowing the Heritage Restoration Grant to support mandatory fire code compliance projects or creating a mechanism for exceptions in these circumstances would help property owners meet these important safety requirements while continuing to preserve the historic character of our downtown. I respectfully ask council to review and amend the Heritage Restoration Grant criteria so that mandatory fire code compliance projects remain eligible for funding regardless of the number of grants previously received. Doing so would not only support individual property owners, but also advance the broader public interest by improving safety, protecting heritage assets, and helping ensure that compliance with the fire department orders does not create an undue financial hardship. This issue affects more than our building alone, and a thoughtful policy change would provide fairness, consistency, and meaningful support to all property owners facing similar obligations. Thank you for your time, consideration, and continued support of Perth's business and heritage communities. After Andrew speaks, we'd be pleased to answer any questions.
Hello all. My name is Andrew Martin. I'm the owner of 616 Gore Street. I'm a new owner in the last few years of a building in Perth. And I was asked by Joan to come and support the delegation. I'm admittedly in a different position because I am in the process of applying for those grants. So my grant opportunity isn't expired. But I think procedurally, one of the things that I thought I wanted to address or point out to council is often we make decisions and we want communities to be safe and do the right things. And the grant process is great that offers 33% here or 15% there. This is a unique amendment that Perth has decided to move forward with, which is addressing that it's a heritage community. And we've seen earlier delegations of meetings on the passion of the heritage, but then to sort of approach these requirements, the costs are unbelievable to retrofit these buildings to fire code. And what I was sort of shocked at is going through the process. On a side, I'll mirror the interactions with the fire department have been supportive, clear, like great. But I think I'm a bit surprised as a property owner that I feel like I did my due diligence in seeking out property in Perth and deciding to move here and invest here and try to improve the community. And then to have, go through the research and find that the total that I'll be required to pay, even with full grants, will be equivalent to 5 years of the gross rent of the residential portion of my building. I feel that's a bit intense. I think that while I understand that there are grants in place for items like improvements to site and the vibe of the city, this becomes a mandatory safety compliance enforced item, which is extremely expensive. And I don't believe Perth wants to seek out massive corporations to come own these buildings. And I think I would even push Joan's suggestion of like the gratitude of the grants to say that this is a specific grant when you're speaking about fire safety, that the council should look at increasing their support or their ability to work with residents. Because I partially think that fire safety companies are grifting this town because there's only 2 companies that we can possibly get to do the work, but they know that Perth is making it mandatory and these costs are flooring. And I think that I want to support the delegation. I want to acknowledge like the time in the process has been great, but I think there's something missing because I think that I think the economics of a small person trying to make a living or improve the city. I understand how the bill got passed in the safety, but I think that we under-measured the costs of how devastating it is because I want to be in compliance. I want to be a good citizen. I want to do well by Perth, but I don't know how to make those connections based on this enforcement act. So I think Joan was really clear on her portion. I think I wanted to come and support that delegation and also express my situation, even though I'm a little bit different because I believe I will or I can apply for those grants. But in suggesting that we may want to look at improvement if the issue is trying to get these fire codes up to date across the city. The town.
Thank you. There'll be questions from Councillor Waterfield and then Councillor Bolt.
Joan and Andrew, I would like to thank you very much for your presentation, and I want to put forward that I will be requesting or an addition to the motion that Councillor McCray has in the agenda. And if the chair wishes it to be a separate motion, that will be up to you, sir. But I will be recommending or putting forth an addition or a motion that council instructs staff to come forward with a report on the possibility of creating a grant for building owners to comply with the Fire Protection and Prevention Act of 1997. If we are to have a vibrant downtown, if we are to promote economic development, we need to partner with our building owners. And while they have made it very, very clear, and we all agree that we need to adhere to the regulations with regards to the Fire Code and Prevention Act, we need to help our building owners. We need to work with you, and I believe that we need to find a way to provide a grant specific to that. So all of you that do have buildings, be it downtown or anywhere else within our town, we want to help you in terms of getting the buildings up to code. And then once the buildings are up to code, I can see this grant then having a sunset clause. So I will be bringing that forth, and those are my comments.
Thank you, Councillor Bolt and then Councillor McCray.
Thanks, Chair. So again, mirror image those comments, and again, Joan and Andrew, we know you're good stewards, and we know you're concerned about the safety of your tenants and the town and so forth. I have a question for Chief Cioffi in this respect. I'm wondering if I could ask that question now.
Absolutely. You just have to do some jockeying around here.
So my question to Fire Chief Cioffi, clearly these regulations, tell me if I'm right or wrong, are not just for Perth, but they're, I'm assuming, at least Ontario province-wide?
Through the chair, yes. So this came out in 2007, and the regulation actually goes to the 1990 building code. So if you were owning a property today, so if you're a business owner and you wanted to create a building like Maximilian's or something like that, where you had commercial below, residential above, the standards are much higher. So this is a very minimum compliance requirement, and it did come out in 2007. So it's very frustrating to be a building owner that has a heritage property, but it is about life safety, and hence why it's in the code.
So my comeback, if I could, to that is because this is an Ontario-wide statute. Obviously, it's not just a problem of yours. I'm sure there's many others of you in the same problem or situation. And I'm wondering if again, Chief, maybe you know, maybe you don't. Is there has anybody taken the time to address this situation to our provincial members of provincial parliament to say, we understand where you want to go with this, but as Andrew alluded to, 5 years worth of rent allocation. I mean, this is an expensive proposal, and I'm wondering, is there anything we can do as a council? And again, this might be through our CAO to find out if there's any relief that can be gotten from our provincial government. And if not, could we address it?
Through the chair, not to my knowledge. These are private businesses, correct? So I can definitely do some research and find out. I know when this first came through, Ottawa had just went through and inspected a majority of their buildings and had to go back through. So you can imagine how happy those customers were, residents were, when they went back through and brought this forward, because it's not a small adjustment they have to make. But I'd be happy to do a little more research and see what else we can do. And but it has been around for a while. Some municipalities are a lot more proactive. right? Ottawa has the ability to have multiple inspectors that go around and do proactive and do more than the minimum. Unfortunately, we don't have the staffing to be able to do stuff like that, so it has taken it a bit longer. But I'd be happy to get that information and come back.
Thank you, Chief. And I'm just trying to think outside of the box here. Over and above trying to amend our policies and find the money for this particular program, I think it's something that it would be interesting to know if we could address provincially.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and then Councillor McRae.
Well, I think the chief answered my question. So my question to you, Chief, was going to be, once the order is issued, what is the expectation timeline wise that the work will be done? And second to that, is there the ability of the corporation, the town, to say, we're going to give you 5 years to bring this building up to where it has to be, but they have to have specific timelines, they have to meet certain parts of their upgrades?
Through the chair, so it's case by case. So some places may have 3 apartments upstairs, some might have 1, and it's all about trying to protect those people and being realistic of what the owner is dealing with and how quickly they can even get staffing or contractors to do the work. And we don't say what they can do, we just say we need this requirement. They could close the window and not have it. That's not very aesthetically pleasing, right? So we try to work with them and give them options as much as we can, but at the end of the day, it's up to the owner to make it compliant.
So, sort of guess what I'm asking is, can council say to the delegation, we're going to give you 4 years to meet the order, but they have to provide us with a timeline of when each step is going to be done. So in the 4 years, or do you get that leeway under the Fire Act?
Yeah, through the chair. So it again, it's case by case. So 4 years would be far too long. But we have had them extend up to 2 years based on just moving through the process. And we had this situation with another owner in town through the pandemic. It was very difficult for them to get anything and to move forward. So what we needed was weekly updates. How are you making out? What is the contractor getting? So at least we're showing some movement. And we work with our OFM advisor on cases like that as well. Say what is realistic and what's too long.
Thank you, Councillor McRae, and then the Mayor.
Through you, Chair, to the delegation and other members of council, I'd like to drill down a little deeper and add a caveat to the proposed motion that Councillor Waterfield brought forward. And that is for staff to review both the Heritage Building Grant and the CIP grant to include a scoring system based on merit of submission. And one of the priorities of the submissions that would come forward in the scoring should be safety and security. That should always be a top priority. And it's interesting because I have the grants in front of me here. And when I read the Heritage Building Restoration Grant, it talks about maintaining, protecting, enhancing, rehabilitating. And to me, if I were the person that was deciding who would be getting the grants and somebody submitted something that had concerns about safety in terms of fire codes, that would be a top mark in terms of priorities and making a selection. We live, just as has been stated, this is a very unique community. We have incredibly a large number of historical buildings. And so I think that our Heritage Building Restoration Grant has to be reflective of the present situation that a lot of these owners are living in. And things like safety and fire code and those types of things should be the top priority when it comes to selection for these grants.
Yeah, we have no motion on the floor yet, and it would be yours, Councillor McRae, to word craft as you will. So it's nothing to be amended right now. It's technically on paper, it's a received for information only. The question I have was, Councillor Waterfield, did I get the impression that you were talking about a separate fund or seeking a staff report for seeking separate funding other than the HP grant there.
Yes, that's correct, Chair. I felt that perhaps having a separate fund grant available would be better for citizens that are building owners because it's more specific. But to Councillor McCrae's points, I think that there may be merit in really reviewing all of our grants, looking at the criteria and the scoring, and having an opportunity to say, where does compliance with regards to the Fire Prevention Act come in? What I'm trying to do here is simply help building owners who have to comply with this. And, you know, if we're going to be having economic development in our town, if we want to have a vibrant downtown, we need to be able to help these building owners. That's where I'm coming from.
I accept that it's going to be a question of financing as well. The finance department is going to be involved in that, where would we find this fund? But I'm just trying to drill down on what the motion will be.
Can I give a stab at it, Chair?
Yes, please.
So basically what we have in front of us right now, which is basically receive it for information, the presentation that we've received. And to add to that our staff review the Heritage Building Grant and the CIP grant to include a scoring system based on the merit of submission with a priority given to heritage and the concerns relating to the building code and the fire code.
Excuse me, before we get the motion on the floor, you had your hand up there, Councillor.
Chair, I would like to get Kathy McNally's opinion on the motion that's just been brought forward from Councillor McCrae, as she deals with a lot of these grants. And I just want to get her opinion on that motion prior to my considering it anyway. I'd like to get staff's perspective on this.
And she's ready to go.
This chair is very low. Through the chair, thank you. I think if council is looking for further investigation into this matter, currently how it works with our two granting opportunities is that it's on a first come, first served basis. Because in the past, we've had some applications that don't come through until October, right? So if we do it based on a scoring matrix, that's difficult because they come in at different times throughout the year and businesses are wanting to get their work done, you know, as soon as they're ready to submit those grants. They've done their homework to get quotes, for instance, as Joan knows. That being said, I would be happy to do a review of our current granting and come up with a recommendation if council's looking for direction on addressing this issue for different options for consideration. So one example might be a new CIP stream that prioritizes like safety or accessibility. Again, it's up to council's discretion for financial contributions, but the Heritage Grant only is $10,000 annually. So if you get the maximum allowable amount, it's only $3,300. So only at that point, 3 businesses can benefit from that. And the Heritage Restoration Grant is mostly related to the historic, you know, restoration of those buildings versus, you know, something safety. Now, Maximilian's is a great example of, you can see their upgrades from the street on either side of their building. So that's an exception. But really, it's really tailored to, you know, bringing buildings back to their historic nature versus addressing safety issues. So my recommendation would be, just if you want, I can do some research on bringing something back for council's consideration that aligns more with what the business owners are asking for today.
Would you be happy with that, Councillor McCrae, that the motion reads as it is on paper right now with an addition that's requesting a staff report back?
That would be great.
Okay.
Yeah, I appreciate Kathy's comments. I guess what I'd have to see is if we had 10 businesses who have orders on them, it's going to be pretty difficult to keep. I don't want to see one business wait 3 or 4 years to be in line for a grant. So I still think you're going to have this every year you're gonna say, well, you're gonna get money for this year, but next year you're not. Maybe 3 years down the road, you're like, I don't really see that changing because it seems to me there's probably quite a few businesses in town that need the money. And it's gonna be hard to work through it, I guess.
Yeah, so if I can
Go ahead.
respond to that through the chair, it's a great point. And there are some CIP programs that have like loan programs, for instance. So that might be something that we would explore so that it addresses more businesses, as you said, in a more complete way. But again, I would have to do further research before I could say that with an educated answer.
Your worship.
Thank you. One of the attractive things about Perth is our heritage downtown, but we're in a situation where being heritage is a disadvantage because it costs more to make the changes. So thinking back to my time on the BIA, the community improvement grant is funded by a grant from council, and it used to be either 30,000 or 35,000. But as I recall, sometimes we had to go out and practically, shake people to say, hey, you're eligible for this. So, yeah, and then the grant goes through the town treasury. So my point is that I think the BIA needs to be involved in this because when an application comes in, it's the BIA that processes it. And the town's role is simply to process.
No, for both programs, through the chair, it's both of us. It's my department.
Okay.
Yeah.
It must have changed since I was on the BIA then, because I can remember the committee assessing the applications. In any case, perhaps having said those two things, that sometimes it's difficult to get people to apply, and that the amount allocated for CIP, I don't think has changed for a number of years. So, in any case, I think the BIA should be involved. And secondly, hopefully we can find in our budget to increase the amount that's allocated for the CIP.
The clerk is busily word crafting here. Can I ask a favour of you, please, Councillor McCrae? Could you read the current motion as on paper as a 1, and then we'll get to a 2, which could be the addition that the clerk will have ready by then? Thank you.
Certainly, Chair. So moved by myself as recommended by the Committee of the Whole, be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Perth receive for information the verbal presentation from Joanna Stevenson's Bowes, and Andrew Martin, financial impact provisions under the Fire Protection and Prevention Act as presented at the Committee of the Whole meeting on June 9th, 2026. So that's the first part.
Thank you.
So through the chair, I've just drafted some wording, so please let me know if this works for you. So the second portion would be to direct staff to undertake a review of current granting offered by the town and consider incorporating funding for building owners required to undertake projects in order to be compliant with the fire code and provide a recommendation to council.
Sounds good.
That work for you, as
Yeah.
if you'd said it? Great. Okay, so that's a 1 and 2 part of that. That's the 2-part motion on the floor. Unless there's then some questions in relation to that, I'm going to call the question. Those in favour? And that is unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I'm sorry that you had to wait so long with a longer meeting and then getting you out of sequence. Sorry. Seven two. We're moving into requests for action now. And what I'm going to have you do, Councillor Waterfield, please, is put the motion on the floor and then open it up to questions.
As recommended by the Committee of the Whole, be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Perth direct staff to contact Danica Bedito to discuss local resources and programming and how families with children under the age of 5 in Perth can be supported.
Okay, so we've all read the communication. Any questions or observations in relation to that? Councillor McCrae.
Just one, and that is that I wondered if there might be some thought given to intergenerational programs whereby we could work with some of our local senior homes. Those in the past, with my experience in working in long-term care, were very enriching. And the seniors just love to be with little people. And we do have Lanark Lifestyle, and we also have Carolina Suite, and we have Lanark Lodge. We have a lot of different venues of which I could see that programming opportunity potentially materialize.
So staff are here and can take note of that observation. Any other comments? Okay, the motion's on the floor. Call the question. Those in favour? And that is unanimous. Sorry, same thing again with the 7.2.2. Please, Councillor Waterfield, get the motion. And I know it's a long one, so you've taken a drink of water and
I'm ready, Chair. I will state this motion to get it on the floor. Whereas it appears that the Government of Canada has resolved in its plans to build a high-speed rail system in connecting Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, with exact routing to be determined in 2026 and planning design work to occur in the 2026-29 period, leading to a financial investment decision expected to be made in late 2029, meaning that time is of the essence to influence routing. And whereas the citizens of our municipality remain extremely concerned about the ALTO proposed northern route and southern route and the negative impact of such serious at-grade divisive infrastructure on rural communities, agriculture, food production, rural transportation and emergency services, hydrology, tourism and recreation, the natural environment and important ecosystems and wildlife corridors, while the urban cities and communities along the 401 corridor vicinity are advocating for any new high-speed rail system to be routed along the 401 corridor with a stop in Kingston, the regional economic, military, post-secondary, and healthcare center of Eastern Ontario, which clearly merits a stop. And whereas we support economic development and Canada's nation-building ambitions to improve GDP per capita, including major infrastructure, which will contribute to productivity and sovereignty, but we believe transportation infrastructure must be built in appropriate locations. And whereas people have long utilized and favored via rail passenger service for regional transportation and are seriously concerned about the deterioration for via services, times, and its future building viability, given increased freight pressure and future freight increases. And whereas if modern high-speed rail line is to be built in our region, the most sensible route is the 401 corridor vicinity, an existing transportation corridor, which has effectively integrated highway, rail, ports, and marine transportation requirements in one of the most long-standing, integrated, and productive corridors of Canada, which already divides communities at great and would be a lesser impact route. And whereas the Corridor Train Alliance is leading a coalition approach to uniting and amplifying the voices of municipalities and businesses and institutions across Eastern Ontario to advocate for a modern passenger rail line in the 401 corridor, meaning that if HSR rail line is to be built, it should utilize the 401 corridor vicinity through our region and must have a stop in Kingston. Therefore, be it resolved as follows. Number one, our municipalities support the work and efforts of the Corridor Train Alliance in advocating for a modern passenger rail line in the 401 corridor in Eastern Ontario, and advocating that if HSR rail line is to be built, it should be built in the vicinity of the 401 corridor, and it must have a stop in Kingston. And number two, our municipality approves a donation of blank to CTA to support CTA's efforts to engage meaningfully and professionally with the Government of Canada for this purpose.
Thank you. Now, Council has discussed this in the past in principle, but this is a slightly different nuance. So any questions? Councillor McCrae.
Through you, Chair. So today I got quite an earful for an hour and a half. I talked to Michelle Foxton. And with her experts, they have a different spin or a different presentation that's being made at the Lions Club on June the 20th from 2 to 4:30 p.m. In my discussions with her, she and her two specialists are recommending high frequency and high speed as it's much more effective. It's $6 billion cheaper, so it's a better investment. And actually, there'll be more stops, including one in Kingston, Belleville, and Brockville. So my recommendation is I'm not in favor of this proposal, that we consider another option.
Just a clarification here from the chair before, it's Councillor Bolton, then your worship. Are you therefore asking for this to be deferred until after that presentation?
Absolutely.
I'll let the mayor or deputy mayor go first.
Okay, go ahead, please.
I'd amend the motion to say we receive this item as information only. It's not our job to get into this.
Thank you. Any observations, Councillor
I
Bolton?
would just like to, he took the words out of my mouth.
Okay.
And you know what, we've already stated in the previous that we're against the Alto project as it is. It's too expensive, it's bad timing, yada, yada, yada. I just think that we got to nip this thing in the bud, and I don't support it at all. Just information only, as the deputy mayor stated.
I will come back to you in a second, Councillor Waterfield, as the mover, but your worship.
I agree with what has been said. From the very beginning, when this proposal came forward, people were saying, well, it makes much more sense to use the 401 corridor. I don't know if that's ever been proven to even be feasible, so I think we'd be foolish to endorse this at this time.
Okay, Councillor Waterfield, would you be prepared to have your motion accepted for information only?
Gladly, Chair. So moved.
Okay, so motion is now for information only, and I'll call the question. Those in favour?
Okay.
Perfect, dealt with, passed unanimously. Staff reports, 8.1. Appointment of senior building official.
As recommended by the Committee of the Whole, be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Perth pass bylaw number XXX, being a bylaw to appoint Paul Nixon as the senior building official for the Town of Perth as presented in Report 2026 Cow 11.1.
Any questions, observations? Call the question. Those in favour? Unanimous. 8.2 again, Councillor Waterfield.
As recommended by the Committee of the Whole, be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Perth, 1, supports the exemption of lands municipally known as 64-72 Cockburn Street from the condominium process, and 2, directs staff to forward a copy of this motion to the County of Lanark as presented in Report 2026 Cow 11.2.
Over to you, once again.
I'm getting a little tired, guys. No doubt. Okay, so this is just really quick. I hope you guys have, if you remember, there was a zoning bylaw amendment that went through for 64-72 Cockburn Street, which is the 6 units and 4 ARU additional residential units going in at the Perth Works property. Part of that process was to go through zoning. And then they were to get a building permit, which they have a conditional building permit for footings and foundation. And they've started on that process, conditional permit. And once the foundation is constructed, then there's 2 things that have to happen. They have to sever the land into 6. The reason we wait until the foundation is built is be sure the lines go exactly where the walls are going to go. So that's why the building part has to start first. So there will be there has been severance applications that I'm dealing with the county. And on top of that, there's then a condominium for the servicing that's happening behind those severed parcels. And in most cases, a condominium would have to go through a public process, just like you would have a zoning meeting. But they have asked for a condominium exemption, which effectively means because they have already been through the public process where we talked about the zoning and what was going to happen, and the severance is another process, and we've acknowledged that it is going to be a condominium, that they should not have to go through another public process because it's well known by those who want to be aware of it. So basically what the county needs from us is a motion just saying we are okay exempting this developer from the condominium process because public meetings have occurred and people have had their chance to have a say. And so then they'll go through at the county level as the approval authority with a condominium agreement and get that registered on title.
Thank you. Councillor Bolt.
Thank you, Chair. So just point of clarification, Joanna. So this means it's not going to be a condominium. It's going to be like a freehold property. Is that like what, just a little bit of clarification?
It is called a parcels of tied land, POTL, and this is new to me as it is to you. So I'm going to try, probably not that well, to explain it. They are building a townhouse with the residential units. The lots will be freehold, so every unit individually is owned by the owner.
Okay.
However, they are sharing the services into the lot, so water and sewer.
Remember that.
So then there is a parcel of tied land, which means that each one of those freehold lots is tied to the easement of a private service.
Okay.
Which is a POTL, POTL is a type of condominium. That's the best I'm going to be able to do for you, but it requires a condominium process, and it's taken me a lot of time to get my head wrapped around that.
I fully understand what you're saying. No, I do.
Was that was okay?
You did a
We're good
good
with that?
job.
I think I'm okay with it.
No, I understand the concept. So so thanks for the clarification. I don't have a problem with it.
Looks like a duck, walks like a duck, but it isn't a duck.
Everybody else around the table is nodding as if they knew what was that.
So anyways, it's just asking for an exemption from the public process because they have been through it.
Any further questions? I'll call the question then. The motion's on the floor. Those in favour? Passed unanimously. 8.4, and Councillor Bolt, please. Pardon?
Chair, you skipped.
Didn't we
skipped
already sort of cover
8.3.
this off?
We dealt with 8.3 with Forbes.
Yeah, the 8.3 we're
Okay,
skipping over.
Yeah,
Okay, you're correct.
so it's 8.4 now.
All right. As recommended by the Committee of the Whole, be it resolved the Council of the Town of Perth, one, approve the designation of the Indigenous Healing Circle Medicine Garden and Healing Forest area within Lastoule Park as, oh, here we go. Hang on a second. I've been given some help here. Known as Ka Ij Mino Ne Goke Dak Dik. Say that once you've had 2 or 3 drinks. Anyway, that's the heritage, the Indigenous way of saying where we gather in a good way. 2, direct staff to work with Lanark County neighbors for truth and reconciliation and Indigenous partners on the development and installation of interpretive signage recognizing the cultural significance of the area. And 3, supports the overall name of Lastoule Park to remain unchanged as presented in report 2026-COW-11.4.
Thank you. This is where I think we were trying to go after the delegation and presentation. I think Councillor Waterfield, you had your hand up first, and then Councillor McRae.
Chair, speaking to this motion, I fully support it. I'm very proud as a town and as a council, the steps we've taken with our Indigenous neighbors in terms of reconciliation and the very, very concrete positive steps we've made in that direction. I believe that the naming of the area as per the motion within Last Duel Park is another step, which I would be very proud to support. I am not in favor of changing the whole name for the whole park. I'm strongly in favor of keeping the name Last Duel Park, but I think that this is another real good step in our continuing bond and relationship with our Indigenous neighbors. Thank you.
I believe, did you have your hand up or did I just imagine that?
Yes, I did. So my question would be in terms of the plaque or the signage going forward, would those costs be shared with the town and also with the Indigenous community?
Through the chair, we haven't had that discussion, and I would recommend that I work with the neighbors on discussing that, but also we could probably look into utilizing our own existing budgets to put up that sign or to search for a grant opportunity for it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Any further questions? Then I will call the question on the motion on the floor. Those in favour? Passing unanimously. 8.5.
Moved by myself as recommended by the Committee of the Whole. Excuse me, be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Perth pass bylaw number 5XX, being a bylaw to adopt the Perth Museum Strategic Plan 2026 to 2031 as presented in report 2026-COW-11.5.
Any questions, observations? Councillor Waterfield.
Chair, just a brief comment. I read the strategic plan and I was extremely impressed with it. Just like the role of libraries are evolving, the role of museums are evolving. I was very impressed with the 4-pillar concept. I thought that was very, very creative and imaginative. And I would just ask that if this is adopted, which I think it will be, that we get an annual update as regards to progress of the plan, because I actually am excited by this. I think it's fabulous. So I strongly support it.
Any further comment? Your Worship.
I agree with what Councillor Waterfield said. I read it also, and it's a change in concept. It's far more outreaching than before. So it was an excellent job.
Thank you. I'll call the question. Those in favour? Unanimous. Your Worship, 8.6, please.
Yes, sir. As moved by myself, as recommended by the Committee of the Whole, be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Perth directs staff to submit an application to the Development Charge Reduction Program for all growth-related projects in the town's development charge study scheduled for completion by 2035, and if successful, direct staff to bring back an amending bylaw to implement a development charge reduction of 50% for 5 years as presented in report 2026-COW-11.6.
Any observation? Deputy Mayor.
Somewhere, might have been County Council, I was told, or as part of a discussion, it says that the 50% reduction won't apply to small municipalities. It's a big city. It's not a scare. It's been said it's going to affect everybody in the province, but then they said, no, it's only going to apply to big cities because small municipalities won't have enough ability to survive. Have you heard anything like that?
This I got through the chair directly from John Jordan's office and from other provincial people, so I'm assuming that we're eligible based on an invitation to apply, but as we go through the program, I'll check, but there's about 210 municipalities in Ontario that have development charges. We're one of them. They're coming out with another program for those that don't have DCs, but right now I believe this is the program that we're eligible for.
It's, if I may help, I'm not saying it wasn't a county as well, but when we were at Good Roads, when this was announced, there was discussion of that nature and I remember. Councillor McCray.
Through you, Chair, to our CAO. Michael, can you tell me, in order to make up the shortfall, what are the do we have any idea of how we apply to make up those shortfalls through some kind of a grant or that type of thing?
Yeah, so the development charge through the chair, the development charge reduction program is a grant program that the province just announced.
Mm-hmm.
So if successful, then we commit to reducing our development charges. And the province gives us money to build that infrastructure related to housing instead.
And an additional question, and the whole idea is that additional money that we receive, once we've done the 50% reduction, will make up that shortfall?
The idea through the chair is that we apply for the program first, and if we're successful, then we reduce development charges. If, like many other grant programs, because it's a highly competitive program, if we're not successful, then we just carry on.
Okay, gotcha.
Question, if I may, and it may
ask the chair.
involve Director Jandy. First, I wanted to say that I'm glad I was going to say scattergun approach, but it's not that. It's that we've included every project that we're thinking of 2035 rather than pick an individual one and try for that and then try another one. We're going broadly. The question I have is, would we, because it's anticipation, would we ever know whether we're getting value back equivalent of what we would have got through the development charges? Because it's almost an academic exercise. We can't say for certain what we would have got. Is that fair? We can estimate?
Well, through the chair, I think we can, based on the number of houses or developments that occur, we can calculate what we would have lost out on development charges over that window.
Yeah, and I just to add to that, I think because this motion also says that it would only be a reduction for 5 years. So depending on how long development takes, you would still be actually putting in your DCs again within a 5-year period. So yes, all of that would be speculation of how long housing is going to take to develop. What is the infrastructure we're going to need during that point of time? But it's not to say that you're reducing it 50% indefinitely, that you would hope that it would come back again in 5 years.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Are development charges up to date there?
Yeah.
Any other questions? I'll call the question on the motion on the floor. Those in favour? And that passes unanimously. .7, please, Deputy Mayor.
Moved by myself, as recommended by Committee of the Whole, be it resolved the Council of Town of Perth receive for information the correspondence from Tony Fleming, Cunningham, Swan, Cardillo, Lombonum regarding the Integrity Commissioner Services Annual Report for 2025 in Report COW 11.7.
Any comments, questions, observations? I'll call the question. Those in favour? That's passed unanimously. We move on to 9 now, CAO and Director Department updates. I'm going to do this slightly differently. Assumption all that we've read and got questions if we need them. Are there any directors that desperately want to present on something or mention something from their reports? Okay, then I'll go back to the normal thing. If any councillors have a question specific, Councillor McCray and then the Deputy Mayor.
Okay, I have 2 questions. First one has to do with to the fire chief, and I was glad to hear that there's fire extinguisher training, and that I guess is provided to all of our employees. but out annually, but also glad to see animal control services provided at Last Dual Park, Stewart Park, Conlon, and Conlon Farms. And I just wondered if he had been contacted in regards to events such as Stewart Park Festival, which is coming up relatively soon. Because I know there were some concerns that happened at Maple Fest, and we just don't need to have a repeat of that. So have they reached out to our fire chief?
Through the chair, yes. Well, not for Stewart Park, but for Maple Fest, but it wasn't part of the committee's decision to pay for them. So right now it's not in their contract. They can certainly do it, but it'd be an additional charge.
Okay. But at least we provide that service to them. We can provide that service to them, you're saying?
Through the chair, we can request it to see if they're available, but it's a tough thing to enforce.
Okay. And my other question is to Michael Tao, our CAO. I'm just wanting an idea how much our municipality spends on studies. Do we have an indication of that? Oh, he just left. And well, maybe
He fled, knowing you're going to ask him a question. Yes, Director
maybe
Jandy.
Nev can look after this one.
So through the chair, I guess there's so many different studies depending on each department. What I can do is look over, are you looking just for the last year or are you looking over a span of a period of time?
Well, I'd like to know on an annual basis what we're paying. And the reason I say that, it just seems to me we're having to do study after study after study. And would there be a way that municipalities might be able to work together, like for example, at the county level, in order to do this in a more fiscally responsible and efficient way? That's where I'm going with this.
Well, I can definitely come back and give you figures in regards to studies that way. In regards to the studies themselves, I think it would be the departments that would be able to answer that questions. I think for me, like just from my understanding, just because of the specifics and that they are like, if we look at active transportation and things like that, they're specific to the municipality itself. So I think some of them would have to be just really narrowed into just the town. But I think that if there's any other comments that anyone wants to make in regards to that.
Through you, Chair, like I understand that they need to be specific to the actual municipality, but I just thought there might be an opportunity for sharing resources some way throughout the county. Because it just seems like we're spending an awful lot of money on feasibility studies, research studies. Well, I guess we'll know when we get those numbers.
Well, thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, two things. Grant, I was asked tonight by a lady and I put it on to you about the advanced screen in front of Tim Hortons. When does it start?
Through the chair, it was activated approximately a month ago. So we're going to look at the timing of that. Not when it was started, but the actual synchronization of that.
Yeah, I drove through it today. It didn't work when I was there, but anyway. Second, good luck, Joanna. We're all behind you. Got a big job. You've done a fantastic job so far, and I hope Thursday night goes well for you. We're rooting for you.
Hear, hear. Yeah, I think we'll be there. Yes, we'll be there. Any other questions from council? Okay, there is no new business. The next meeting date is regular committee of the whole, Tuesday, 11th of August, 2026 at 5:30. And the host will be Jim Bolt. Questions from the media? No, thank you. None online. And we move into closed session. And Your Worship, can I have you move that 13.1, please?
Chair. That the committee of the whole resolve itself into closed session at 7:50 p.m. pursuant to the Municipal Act 2001 for the following purposes. Lands legally described as parts 27 and 28, concession 10, Geographic Township of North Elmsley, subject to subsection 239, bracket 2, I, a trade secret or scientific, technical, commercial, financial, or labor relations information supplied in confidence to the municipality or local board, which, if disclosed, could reasonably be expected to prejudice significantly the competitive position or interfere significantly with the contractual or other negotiations of a person, group of persons, or organizations. And 2, human resources matter, CAO 2025 performance evaluation, subject to section 239, bracket 2. B, personal matter about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employee.
Call the question. Those in favor? Thank you. We're moving into closed session.
Yeah, can you bring the screen up, please? A little bit. Okay, thank you. Moved by myself that the committee of the whole rise and report from the closed session at 8:37 PM.
Thank you. Those in favor? Yes. Good. The motion for council to rise and report from it is moved, and in closed session, the committee of the whole, 1, approved closed session meeting minutes from 7th of April 2026. 2, discussed lands legally described as part lots 27 to 28, concession 10, geographic township of North Elmslie. 3, discussed a human resources matter related to the CAO 2025 performance evaluation. And that's the report from, so adjournment, please. Someone, because Barry Smith's not here. So, Jim, are you able to do the adjournment, please?
15.
15, yeah.
15. Moved by myself, the regular committee of whole meeting held in 2026 adjourned at
8:38.
Those in favor? Aye.
Aye.